You're listening to an episode of The Portrait, or Portrættpodden, as it is called in Norwegian. This is the show where I sit down and have deep, often funny, mostly thought-provoking conversations with my biggest heroes. Those who greatly influence and inspire me, who make me think, and help me better understand the world I'm living in. My name is Mats Lasse Jangås, and I'm an independent journalist, actor and activist, and together with my guest, cartoonist, illustrator and all-round beautiful artist Brooke Bourgeois, we will be the voices in your head for the next hour. Brooke, being, among other things, a professional illustrator for The New Yorker, has also become famous on the internet through the YouTube board gaming channel No Rolls Barred. And in between illustrating, shooting, and pursuing other engagements, Brooke was gracious enough to give me an hour of her time to talk illustrating, her upbringing in the US, YouTube, love, inspiration, and much more. Without any further ado, here is Brooke Bourgeois.
Ladies and germs, and everyone in between, you are listening, or might even be watching, the latest episode of The Portrait, or Portrættpodden, as it is called in Norwegian. This is the podcast where I sit down and interview my biggest heroes, those who greatly influence and inspire me, who makes me think and helps me better understand the world I'm living in. My name is Mats Lasse Jangås. I'm your host. I'm a Norwegian independent journalist, podcaster, actor, and activist. And I'm also madly curious as to what factors drove my biggest sources of inspiration on the journey to where they are today. My next guest hails from New Orleans, Louisiana, a cartoonist and illustrator currently based in London. She's driven to record instances of humor and surprise, or among other publications, as The New Yorker. But her sharp wit and keen eye brings this from more than just a mere cartoon to a biting satire, and in no uncertain terms tells us what it means to be human today. Brooke Bourgeois, who some of you might recognize from the YouTube channel No Rolls Barred, the Lord of the Board herself, joins me now today. And if you'll pardon my French, Brooke, how the devil are you?
Oh yeah, I'm good. Oh my God, the Lord of the Board title is one of those ones that I just forget about sometimes, and then we're just greeted by new friends, or like I was at a pub in Peckham the other day, and someone just tapped me on the shoulder and said, "My Lord," and it's not a thing that I ever would have thought would have happened to me, but I love it.
Here comes the Lord, Lord of the Board. She is the Lord of the Board of the Board.
Yeah, how are you?
Well, I'm doing better now that you're here. I'm not just staring at my own mug.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Very good.
If you're listening or watching this and wondering what the hell are we talking about, No Rolls Barred, the YouTube channel No Rolls Barred, is a board game channel where Brooke features among a lot of other funny and amazing talents. And she was recently crowned a Lord of the Board, so that's your context. And I'm sure most of my audience might know you from YouTube, but you are you're also a cartoonist and illustrator, as I said in the introduction. But you're a Harvard-educated neurobiologist.
Yes, which I haven't used much, but it's related, I would say. Like everyone uses their brains is the thing. Like probably the reason that I fell so hard into juggling loads of different things, I think, is because I fell out of love so hard with neurobiology. Just because, like, I always thought I wanted to be a doctor. Like, I'm sure we all have parents that want us to be responsible things that will pay mortgages and stuff. But I had always loved drawing and stuff like that. But then I actually took an organic chemistry course. And in organic chemistry, you have to draw a lot. And so I was doing all these mechanisms. I was like, why do I love this course so much. And it was because like I got to draw these little cartoons of molecules meeting together, and I made all these little love stories and like would tell comic stories of how one molecule was trying to get with another one. And I was like, oh, maybe I don't like chemistry after all. Maybe I like this storytelling thing. But all biology is storytelling. I think all science is storytelling if you just put a spin on it. And then I decided to abandon the science part of it eventually. But
all to rephrase that, well, storytelling comes in all different sort of forms, and some gateway drugs might be neurobiology for some. might be playing board games with your friends, or in my case doing a podcast and reaching out to my biggest heroes around the world. I said in the introduction, you're from New Orleans, Louisiana. You're an American. We'll get to your cartooning and illustrating. What at least I feel that means in our current climate. But where does that love of drawing come from?
Oh, that's a good question. I think when you're a kid, you're always like a little bit lopsided towards something, like or maybe I'm just lopsided. But I think I was never like a singer. My mom tried with all her heart to make me do dancing, but I was always the art kid. Just like ended up being quite good at it as a child. And then when I was actually New Orleans is a cool city in that the school system is garbage, but they do no offense to New Orleans, I love this city, and it's very cool, but they have a magnet school in the city that is dedicated purely to arts. And so what they let me do is they let me go to all girl Catholic school in the morning, leave in the middle of my French class, be like, au revoir, get in the car, drive across the city. And then from like 1:15 until 6 p.m. every day, I just got to do straight up art. So like I was in a building so I was a visual arts kid, but then there were musicians that were on the same hallway. There was a culinary class that was below us, which was pure torture. But it was really amazing to be able to be invested in as a student that early on. And then I just sort of used it as an extracurricular to get into Harvard. And then I was like, oh no, I can't ignore this. And then it got me, Yeah.
I think most people our age can relate to the fact of going, I'm sure I'll get into Harvard. I'll just apply. Oh shit, I actually got into Harvard. I actually have to do something there.
Yeah. I was terrifying. Like I literally had no idea. I always was like, it's amazing to be with people that inspire you. Or my dad always likes to say, compare yourself to the best, not the worst. Yeah. But then I was really the worst of the best. It was not good. Like Harvard needs one dumb person, and that was me. Like I remember day one, I was across the hall. I was living in this little entryway called Strauss, and my neighbor was number 3 in the world, full stop, for math. Just the third best mathematician in the world. I would ask him for help on my silly calculus homework, which was insane and wildly humbling. But also, he didn't know how to use a comma. So different brains, Yeah.
Yeah. We can't all be perfect creatures.
No, definitely not.
So take me back to what is the upbringing for young Brooke in New Orleans, escaping French class and going into art, or what takes up most of your free time when you're, say, 10, 12? Formative years.
Oh, the formative years. Oh my God. Well, I mentioned briefly, my mom wanted with all her heart for me to be a ballerina. But it was one of those things that never really stuck. I was much better at working with my hands and my feet, which is weird. But yeah, at like the age of 10, actually, the age of 10 is an interesting one, because that was when my family really started to invest in me as an artist. Like, so for my 11th birthday, they got me my first ever acrylic set. So they were like, Brooke is smart. We will push that. She's good at math. We want her to be a ballerina. We'll push that. And they saw this art thing and they were like, okay, we'll get her a set of acrylics. So I'd like paint little things here and there. I'd like copy calendars or like little things. But then the thing that got me in real trouble, that sort of made the art thing a little bit of a rogue, I don't know, tangent, was in the middle of the night. I had like a stroke of inspiration. I was like, you know what I'll do? Uh-oh. All the big artists that I inspire, I know, get ready, I wanted to paint like a big thing. So I looked at my door and I was like, that's about the like relative scale. If you scaled up a giant Hershey bar, I don't know if you know what a Hershey bar is, but
sure.
Yeah, it's a crap chocolate. I would say Europe does chocolate a lot better than in the US, but Hershey is what we got. So I spent all night and I painted my door like a giant Hershey bar. And I thought it was the best thing ever. I was like, this is photorealistic. I am a genius. No one has ever thought of this before. When my parents woke up, they were less thrilled because they had just painted the entire thing a tasteful eggshell. So yeah, I was grounded and they took away my paint set. So that was a bit of a bummer. However, that year was also the year that Hurricane Katrina hit the city of New Orleans. And so the family had to evacuate and all that stuff. And our house was totally destroyed. And so we were sitting, we lived in a hotel for 2 weeks and like just waited it out. And then my family was able to go back to the house and get what they could when the water had gone down. My dad called to me and said like, oh, Brooke, I got a surprise for you. My two uncles were carrying something over their shoulder and they had taken the Hershey bar door off of its hinges to break because it was on the second floor. And so they saved it. So that was really like the acknowledgement of like, hey. And so then after that, I would just draw like all the time. Just lots of painting always felt like the kind of like higher level thing. But I wasn't ever really, I was just doing like realistic stuff. So like Hershey bar doors or like trying to copy paintings, but never really made stuff on my own until much later. Yeah.
I think I've heard that the Hershey bar story is somewhere. Doing my research, but is that then young Brooke? Is that then rebelling against your parents' vision for what your life is going to be by painting your door?
I think so, yeah, because I think they really wanted me to be a doctor, in the sense that like. My parents both didn't have, my dad didn't go to college at all. And my mom went to college. But then because my brother is severely autistic, kind of like stayed at home. So they really were looking for someone to be the financial rock of the family. So they were like, Brooke is good at math. Surely that will lead to something. Yeah, the joke's on them, but, you never know. We'll see. But I think they finally let go of that, because I think they really understood that, that drawing is kind of the way that I communicate with the world. And if, as you said, kind of like finding your voice, like if you don't get to speak in the way that you want to, you're being quiet. So without drawing, I was never happy. So a little bit of rebellion, but they've come around.
Good. They've forgiven you for the door, at least.
Yes. Yeah. It's still in our house in New Orleans. So we got a new house after Katrina, and they refitted the hinges to make it fit, which is really sweet. Yeah,
nice. See, my parents were the complete opposite. I wanted to be a ballerina. My parents didn't. They really didn't want to. Well, there you go. So some people get to live out their dreams. Some don't.
Devastating. Did you ever get to do any dance?
There's this one home video. I've been reliably informed, at least. That features me in a pink tutu.
Nice. So at least you got the accoutrement. The outfits are the best part.
Yeah. That's the perks of being in the industry, I guess. I could just hear my dad in the background go, "Oh no."
Oh, I feel that. At the same time, I got a paintbrush. Same thing.
Yeah. We're kindred spirits, if nothing else. So graduating Harvard, that's a big feather in most people's caps. What brings you into well, I know you went to London for education, to further your education, but for the purposes of those who don't know, what brought you to London?
So London was actually kind of the second stop. So like I got given a ridiculous gift upon graduation, which is I went to the Harvard people and they all just sit in a line at a fancy table. Mm-hmm. And I said, I've studied the wrong thing. And they said, okay, we have a fellowship for people like you. So there was this guy called Michael C. Rockefeller, who was a Harvard grad and Rockefeller of, Rockefeller mm-hmm. Center. Yeah, the big one, Moneybags McGee over here. But so he studied business and was like, I don't like that. I just need to travel. Like I've got a real interest in anthropology and archaeology. I just give me 1 year to travel. So his parents said, all right, we'll let you have 1 year. And then he went and he traveled and he lived amongst the ASMAT people. And he was like, this is my jam. Like I needed to know if I needed to do it. And I do need to do it. That's the answer. I can't be a businessman. So he did that. Like if you've ever been to the Metropolitan Museum in New York, the ASMAT wing is all the stuff that he's collected. But he was lost on a journey. And so never found. So his family was absolutely devastated. But they said, if there's a silver lining here, Michael lived a happier life doing that and traveling and having that answer rather than being a banker. So what they did was, in order to preserve his memory, they created this fellowship called the Michael C. Rockefeller Memorial Fellowship, which is for students who studied the wrong thing and needed to pick a country and a project that had nothing to do with what they studied, but was this answer of I just need to try this. And if I try it and I fail, I'll go back to being a doctor. But if I try it and I like it, I might do it. So I said, can I do storytelling and comedy in Scotland? Because I had heard about the Fringe Festival. And they said yes. So I ended up in Scotland and I just fell in love with kind of the Scottish, the whole Anglo-Saxon history of storytelling, oral tradition and all that, and the theater. I really fell in love with the theater. So then I fell in love with Scotland and then was just trying to find a way back to be in the UK so that I could be back in Scotland. And then so I found myself in London at art school for that reason. So really just kind of fell in love with the theater, fell in love with the storytelling tradition, fell in love with the Ceilidh music, all that stuff. So it was kind of an accident that I ended up down south, to tell you the truth. But then I ended up sticking around because I found some people that I like, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some actor guy.
Yeah.
He's okay, I guess.
Yeah. It's not like he's an award-winning comedian or anything.
No.
Like that. Yeah.
For those listeners, that's Sullivan Bo Brown we're talking about.
Yes, infamous.
The infamous, the internet fiend that is.
Internet fiend. He'll be thrilled to know that that's his title.
Yeah. I'm sure I could think of something more complimentary, but that was it came from the heart, if nothing else.
Yeah,
100%. Speaking of YouTube, we'll jump back and forth in the chronology here. My first introduction to you was, like I said, through Noble Spot. But specifically, I watched a video of Blood on the Clock Tower.
Oh, yeah.
But out of context. Yeah.
Oh, dear God. Good luck. Jeez.
So the only thing I have to go on, my first introduction to all of you, is just you and your boyfriend going, "Are you evil? Are you evil? Are you evil?"
It's quite the intro indeed.
Because that leads me to my most important question: are you evil?
Sometimes I am. Are you evil?
Sometimes.
Okay, that's good. Are you evil right now?
I'm trying to present my best side.
That's fair. That's exactly what an evil minion would say.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. Have you played Blood on the Clock Tower?
Not yet. I'm trying to find my closest 20 friends to play with me.
Oh, what an honor. That game. Oh my God. I could play it a million times. And it is always awesome. Like what I love about it is the storytelling and the fact that you get to play a character. Like there's always an incentive to lie, which is incredible in a game. And it's good fun.
Yeah. And being theater kids as we both are, we rarely need an incentive to lie and
Cold blood, yeah.
Oh yeah.
During a hellish thunderstorm, on the stroke of midnight, there echoes a bone-chilling scream. The townfolk rush to investigate and find the town's storyteller murdered. Their body impaled on the hands of the clock tower, standing proudly in the middle of the town square. There's still warm and fresh blood dripping onto the cobblestones below. A demon is on the loose, murdering by night and disguised in human form by day. Many find it hard to believe, the concept too ghastly to imagine. But then again, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. Some have managed to gather together scraps of information. Others have the ability to fight the evil or protect the innocent. But the demon and its evil minions are spreading lies to confuse and breed suspicion amongst the terrified and increasingly paranoid inhabitants. Who will be the next victim? Will evil triumph over good? And has the sun set for the final time over Ravenswood Bluff? Who knows? Keep one eye open at all times. Beware of those that go bump in the night, and those who don't. Stay alive. Trust no one. And good luck. Blood on the Clock Tower is a bluffing game enjoyed by 5 to 20 players on opposing teams of good and evil, playing inhabitants of the fictional village of Ravenswood Bluff. All the actions of the game are overseen by a storyteller player who conducts the actions and makes crucial decisions. And if you want to experience this game in its full horrific excellence, check out No Rolls Barred on YouTube, featuring Brooke Bourgeois.
This is a bit of a tangent. I might have to cut it for legal reasons. Yeah, you never know. But I contacted No Rules Barred half a year ago, wanting to do like a charity version of Blood on the Clock Tower.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, just be part of it with you guys, and then if I die, I'll donate like £1,000 to charity or something.
Right.
Never heard back from you guys. So this is my slow rebuilding of that master plan. One player at a time, starting
with me, the most evil of them. Well, yeah, I'll pitch it to. I'll ask Adam. There's so many, like, just because the person who runs the channel is the busiest human I've ever met, and also like the production schedule is insane. Like if you look at Sullivan's Diary, it's just chuck. So that's probably what happened. Probably got lost in the ether, but you know, I'll give it an ask. But yeah, because that's awesome. We just did a charity live stream for the Mind for our 100K, which was really really cool. But yeah.
Well, Figured it doesn't hurt to ask at least.
Of course.
That also brings up an interesting aspect. I feel like most people know, but might gloss over is the actual amount of work that goes into each and every one of the silly and inverted commas frivolous YouTube videos.
Oh, it's insane. It's mad that I have the easiest job, and that like I get to just go up and show up, and I get to play a game, and I am rewarded for making silly mistakes. Mm-hmm. Whereas someone like Adam, the head of the channel, he has to research the game. He has to decide, okay, who does this suit? Like, will this be a John Gracie meltdown? Will this be like, there will always be a Sullivan character? Would this benefit from some Rosie chaos? Would this benefit from like a little bit of patience? Like, it's kind of like figuring out the chemistry of it every single time. And Adam does really, really well to optimize that. So he's on that side. He's got all that. And then of course, Laurie and Terry, like all the production stuff is insane. The amount of cameras that they have to think about are like the greatest testament to this though was the live Blood on the Clock Tower shoots, which we just wrapped. So it was amazing. So Rosie did the entire set. I cannot even imagine the amount of hours that went into it. So from my end is a cakewalk, but there's a lot of effort that goes unseen in every single detail. So yeah, we're really proud of the show.
I bet. My hat's off. My metaphorical hat is off to all of you. And if I can subvert at least one fan to your cause, then my work is done. Going back to the love of art and storytelling and theater and trying to you said to get to know you better. What to phrase it in a bit of a lighthearted, stupid way? What does it take for a new biologist to become a professional cartoonist for the New Yorker?
Oh, that's a good question. And it actually kind of goes down to neurobiology. I would say it goes down to delayed gratification versus instant gratification. And so I would say as well, scientific paths, they have a very kind of linear trajectory, and sometimes there are ups and downs, but like to contribute to a work, you're a piece of something, which is incredible. But to produce a cartoon and to have that published and to be that yours in picture and caption, like that is such a wave of just oxytocin and every single positive neurotransmitter you can possibly get. Like especially like when you get to capture a moment. Like my favorite cartoon I think I've ever done was the day that Trump was impeached. I was living in the UK, so I actually got to jump on the news, which was really cool. So the New Yorker, in addition to the stuff that goes into the magazine, they take a daily cartoon every day. So if you like figure out the best thing for the day, you can submit it before 9 a.m. Eastern time, which is 2 p.m. UK time. And they might consider it, and they'll give you an hour to let you know if they want it. But I did a caption. It was Trump, Johnson, and Clinton. And they're talking about like, oh, well, but three's a party because 3 presidents have been impeached. But to have that, I was like, oh, it's incredible. But to go from that, it was just really kind of like falling out of love with the reality of what science was, and like working in a lab every day. Or I spent a lot of my undergrad decapitating flies, which, as you can imagine, was riveting. But I was like, I'm not. The thing that interested me about the brain was the differences in our perceptions of the world and the stories that we all tell, and like what actually gets people excited, as opposed to understanding what atoms are flowing in and out of cells, that kind of thing. And so because the reality of it wasn't what I thought it was, I shifted into the ultimate like opposite of it, which is joke telling and just not understanding the brain, but just trying to figure out what will make the brain light up because there's a connection. And so I think I am excited about reactions of synapses, but I'm more interested in creating them rather than understanding them.
Yeah. Also, found that if you dealt with a lot of shitty circumstances, let's be fair with how the world is churning at the moment. It's, at least I find it's easier to try to wrap your brain around it when you're laughing your ass off, as opposed to reading a 200-page essay on, I don't know, atoms splitting or decapitating flies, or something that actually needs an education, and not just me sitting on my couch having fun.
Yeah. It's funny because we only get, it was weird when I was presented with the fact that like, oh yeah, you can just do what you want to do. Or when I was presented with the choice as an adult of like, I can just live where I want to live, rather than just staying in the US, which is where I grew up, that ability to have true agency, and was one of the greatest privileges, I think, of the education that I had, and realizing that you can just break out of whatever conventions exist. So yeah, it's a very freeing experience becoming a cartoonist.
Yeah. What is in might be a cheesy question, but what's a daily routine for a professional cartoonist?
Oh, daily routine. Okay, so daily routine is get up, do a little bit with Sullivan. We always we have a couple different alter egos and stuff like that. But then Sullivan goes to work, and then I listen to the news. So I'm always listening to the news to see like, okay, what's the US perspective? What is the UK perspective? Is there anything that could be a daily cartoon? So that's kind of always what my my like first thing is. And then, to tell you the truth, I only really do one day of intense cartooning, and that day is Tuesday. And that is because New Yorker batches are due on Tuesdays. So I will literally spend from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., no breaks, drawing 10 cartoons. Just so that, because I do so many other different things. So like, I'm like, Tuesday is the day that I draw. And then Wednesday might be a day that we're doing a shoot for something, or I might be working on another project. Sullivan and I are right now working on an idea for a graphic novel. So there are a couple little other things in the works. But yeah, I only really cartoon one day a week. And I try to keep it to one cartoon per hour. So it's really fast. But throughout the week, I'll be like listening to things. So if I'm at a comedy show, I'll be like, oh, that idea, if I think about it in a different way, make a good idea for a cartoon. Or someone might say something ridiculous. Like we were playing poker the other day at Adams, and they were like, oh, if you're our friend was totally honest about everything, and we were saying who would be the most shit poker player, and it's Abraham Lincoln, Honest Abe. So I was like, that will turn into a cartoon. So just like always being open to things is kind of the main like thing that I have turned on.
I suppose if you're playing poker with Trump, you'll just have a lot of extra cartridges of extra playing cards laying around.
Oh, 100%. And a little bit of, bribe money, hush money,
Yeah. A lot of people standing behind him going, ace of clubs.
100%. Oh my God. If that man gets back in office, I won't get started on politics. But,
no. We were having so much fun.
Don't bring him into it. Yeah.
No, he's gotten enough attention, I think.
Yeah.
But what was it? Well, it's sort of related to politics, I suppose. But I guess just from an outside perspective, not being a UK citizen, I suppose you've gotten enough material now in the last couple of months.
For
with the Queen dying and 500 prime ministers in the last half hour or something.
I mean, you're not that far off is the sad thing. It's crazy. UK politics is quite strange, but I do still feel a little bit like an interloper with it. So like I would say I was more ready to do cartoons about the death of the queen, but even then, that was so polarizing because of the colonial history and and there's so much stuff there that was difficult, but got a little bit of that. So, but the prime ministers, those jokes just write themselves. It's mad. So I had a couple ideas for it, but other stuff about how does the Norwegian political system work? Does it have like so it's all random. I have no idea, but it's just like the more character like the politicians are, the easier it is to make jokes about them. So if you have sensible people in government, there's nothing to make jokes about.
No.
Lucky you.
I wish. Just watching the news before I logged on here, and there's a huge still ongoing scandal about our politicians refusing to pay taxes and living rent free and having shady dealings and stuff. I won't name anyone or throw anyone under the bus, but
sigh. Yep, I feel that.
Yeah,
feel that.
The sigh that says it all. Some things are universal, sadly, and that also extends to politicians and people supposed to care for our well-being.
Yeah, you would expect, but
enough politics. I say that, and then your many of your drawings are, if not political, then at least they are very with the finger on the pulse of what's going on, like in a funny way, like which is forgetting it's not digital and beginning to put the pants on. And the slow deterioration of the human mind and people going insane in lockdown and with the war in Ukraine and everything going to hell. But then at the same time, just this extremely beautiful and heartwarming naivete about how everything is going to be better somehow. I'm not going to put words into your mouth, but what is if there is a main motivation, what is the main motivation behind the subjects you choose to cover in your drawings?
That's a good question. I think a lot of it is, for a while I used to think it was like just finding an unseen connection behind things, but I think more and more it's just kind of that collective human common sense thing of saying like, oh, everybody's people, or everybody has this. I think trying to find relatable things in unexpected places is kind of what my jokes are about. Particularly for, I think with lockdown, that was kind of the best, a horrible time. But it was understanding our new physics and realizing that everyone had problems. Like, I know that I've made a good cartoon when people say, this is me, or like, this is a thing that's happened to me. And that's kind of what I'm doing, just kind of taking what people give me and then creating a different collage just to show it back. So it's a distortion of reality that is very relatable. That's what I hope to achieve. And then some of them are just stupid. But like I did one the other day that was like about someone who had stolen a shell of a clam, or no, the shell of a snail, and it's like a police lineup, and one of them has this, that's not about anything, but I do love an animal cartoon. But
it's fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What you spoke about your daily routine being watching the news and looking for things to comment on. But what other sort of factors going into your creative process? Is it just looking at the daily state of things, or could it be a chance meeting in the streets, or a story you were told when you were young? What sort of main motivations lie behind those drawings, illustrations, your art that you're most happy with?
It's a good question. I think I'm kind of a sponge in that I am just always looking for opportunities to listen and reflect. So I think that the news is the most obvious one, because you can really take a caricature and lampoon something by making it ridiculous. But I think I love using narratives that already exist. So I would say, like, my favorite drawings, I have an exhibit that's actually going to happen in London, and it's to do with I don't know if you know about pantomimes, but they're a weird British holiday tradition where you do like a famous story. Exactly. Or like, what's the other one? I forget. It's weird. Americans don't know about them. It's really strange. But they're doing Cinderella actually at the theater where we shot the Blood on the Clock Tower stuff. And so the friend who runs the theater was saying to me, Brooke, you do a lot of princess cartoons. And I didn't even realize that. But I have a lot of cartoons about Cinderella, about The Little Mermaid, about all that stuff, because really what they are, and it does a great thing that's kind of similar to like Greek myth, is that it gives you a shelf or a construction that everybody knows. And then you can just kind of take it apart and reconfigure it, like a Rubik's Cube. And so I think I love taking those recognizable stories in particular. Like I do a lot of Disney princess ones, do a lot of Greek myth ones these days. I think when I don't have anything, that's where I start to say, like, what is the thing that I can poke at from that recognizable thing, which is something that I really admire in theater as well. I think my favorite show, in addition to Grubby Little Mitts, which is Sullivan and Rosie's show at the Fringe, I saw this incredible show where this one man did the entire Greek pantheon on his own, which was amazing. But just the joy of the recognition, I think that's part of what is really great about cartoons, is being like, oh, I know that character. Oh, this is that fun, new, exciting context. Oh, I've been that person before. I think that's what's really fruitful about using fairy tales or Greek myths or something like that as a starting point. But yeah, it can come from anywhere, like a poker night with Adam, or but I would say that's probably the greatest pattern I have in my cartoons that aren't about politics these days.
Yeah, seems to me, once again, being an outsider, but it seems to me that at least just one evening spent with Adam Blompier is enough material for a lifetime.
100%. Oh God, he's a wild man, and actively trying to steal my boyfriend. But that's a different story for a different day.
I can't really blame him. To be fair.
Oh no, not you too. Oh God, I have to hide him in a box.
See, now you're happy with just doing it digitally.
Yeah, he's safe in an unknown location. Yeah.
Let's meet this strange Norwegian guy in London. By the way, bring your boyfriend.
Yeah.
Oh well, maybe another time.
No, it'd be great to meet you in person if you're around. So do drop me that. Yeah, for sure.
If nothing else, I'll just fight Adam Blompier for the love of Sullivan Mowbray.
I hear you do have to beat him in a board game tournament, but it's no big deal.
Yeah. Then I have to face you, and that would just be no. Too much respect and awe for you to ever attempt to do that. So fine, no. I'll let you keep your boyfriend then.
Oh, thanks. So generous.
Yeah, this is the guy that keeps on giving. So generous of the white Western guy to let
me keep my boyfriend. That's very nice.
Yeah. I might have gone off on a tangent there. Let's try to rewind. This might seem like an obvious question, but is it then if you picture a well of comedic inspiration? Is it then a bigger challenge for you to have people who are content with their lives, or not name names, but people who really fucked up?
I think the comedic challenge, it's a little bit between the two, because if people are content with their lives, it's easy to say, like, what are the assumptions that you're making? That's kind of like, it's all about just changing the perspective there. Whereas if things are a little bit fucked up, that you can also just lampoon by saying this is just so ridiculous. So they're a little bit like two ends of the spectrum. Like slapstick comedy, I would say, is one side, and you can have that with cartoons as well, where like where things are just so insane, or you can just have that really like, this is a bit shit, but like, why do we always why do we pay more attention to our plants than like our children or whatever it is? Like they're kind of like little micro things that you can find anywhere. It's just a matter of like what setting you have the focus on. I don't know if that answered that question, but it's an interesting one. I haven't quite thought about it.
Well, I think we have this in common. Well, I at least I make the assumption. Feel free to prove me wrong, but I feel that we're in this position, us having, of course, different platforms and different mediums, but we have this platform where we sometimes might just have to pinch ourselves and think, this is actually what I'm doing. So to bring an example, half a year ago, I was living in Germany, and I got the opportunity to interview a cannibal.
What?
Yeah, a cannibal. Like an actual cannibal eating people kind of cannibal, not those vegan cannibals we often hear about. But the fun thing is, I got through all the security checks and everything, and the day before the interview, I got an email saying, "Well, sorry, we have to cancel. He's got food poisoning."
He's got food poisoning from what? The human flesh that he's consuming? Oh my
Apparently. Too much salt in his diet. I have no idea.
Too much salt, too much of a salty person. You never know.
Yeah. And then fast forward half a year. I'm sitting here in my flat in Tromsø, in northern Norway, and I'm on the phone with my own rapist. So sometimes you just have to go. I'm actually this is my life now. So hopefully you don't have the same type of examples, but do you sometimes get the feeling that my job, well, at least a big part of my job is studying the human condition and just watching everything burn around me?
I mean, sometimes, yeah, definitely. Where particularly when Trump was in presidency, I was like, I would look at the news and I would be horrified, but then I would find myself being like, well, where is the joke in this? Like, and that's quite an interesting thing to be like, how can I find something palatable in this? Or sometimes I'm not really looking to make people laugh. Sometimes I'm just looking to make people think. Like, there was the day that the Roe v. Wade leak came out. I remember I was sitting on the couch and I just, I got the buzz that that the decision that there was a leak, that they were going to overturn it. And I remember just feeling so sick about it. And then my brain immediately switched on to be like, I feel like every person who's fought for Roe v. Wade is like turning over in their grave. And then I was like, oh, there's a cartoon in that. And it's quite humbling, especially like when you get to be the cartoon that reflects something as somber as that. That really is kind of like, holy crap. And then also, holy crap, like I'm the person that put the full stop on that sentence for one particular publication. So yeah, it's an interesting one to be able to have that platform. It's wild. It's genuinely wild.
In a sense, well, through illustration, you're becoming a very, very visual final stop on the Roe v. Wade trauma. No pressure, I suppose.
Yeah, right. Oh my God. Well, luckily there were other cartoonists that were that were doing stuff at the same time. And so I felt very much in good company. Like that's the thing. So I do feel a little bit of FOMO because all the other cartoonists are they're in New York or they're in LA, but I got to meet a lot of them. And so my friend Ivan did the cartoon the day after, which was about watching the news, and we kind of like posted each other's cartoons in tandem. So I really feel like I had buddies and I had allies, and there's a Slack for the New Yorker cartoonists, and everyone's like always supporting each other when we do the thing. So it never feels like it's quite in isolation. So that's the silver lining of it, I think.
Is there an since we brought up role debate, is there or has there been any sort of situations or events where you think this is either too dark or too personal to be able to comment on? Does it ever get like a very bad metaphor, like a wall coming down where you just feel unable to comment on it in a funny way?
I think so, definitely. Like Zoe C, who's a really great cartoonist, did a cartoon about back to school in America after there'd been so many school shootings, which was just a girl hugging her mom at the steps of a school, which that wasn't a cartoon that was meant to be funny. But I felt that I couldn't, there was nothing I could say about school shootings that I found funny. Like there are definitely angles that people have taken, but like for me, I was just like, that is so horrifying. I really can't talk about that. Or like September 11th is always a hard day to do a cartoon on, or like, or when police killed George Floyd, like that was horrific. And also that wasn't my cartoon to make, because like I'm a white person. So like I don't, that is not where my voice needs to go. And so luckily there is quite like a diverse like crew of cartoonists. And so like they can step in when that's their thing to talk about. And I think as well, they're like good at curating who is able to tell that story. But I think those are the two factors. Like if it's too sad or if it's not my story, that's when I won't do a cartoon.
Well, speaking of too sad, well, being of course now you're residing in the UK, but in general, using you as an example, being a young woman in the States in our current climate, do you ever just get exhausted and want to turn off the news?
Oh, definitely. I actually think being in the UK is a nice distance from it. I do feel it a lot more when I'm in the States. I think I was back in the States in June for some weddings, and that was when all the Roe v. Wade stuff was officially overturned. And that it just felt really heavy because we were in New York, and like it's not going to affect New York, but I'm from Louisiana, and it's going to affect people in Louisiana, and maybe people I know, which was a lot. And to have, it feels weird as well to drop in and say like I have this allegiance to this country, America, which is very fraught. But then I get to go back to the UK where I don't have to deal with that issue. So I do feel a little bit strange sometimes, and sometimes a little bit removed, and as if I'm kind of running away from it sometimes and just commenting from afar. But going back is always sobering, is what I would say.
Yeah, I take it as much, but is it might just be me being the wrong gender to comment on this. Obviously I am, but with it being sobering going back to the US and having that sort of freedom or a safer place in the UK, does that make it easier for you to comment on things in the US with that sort of distance to it?
I would say so, yeah. Mainly because of the energy thing. Like, because here, if I want to opt into the US news, I have to seek it out. Like I put on a podcast, or like, it's not always on in the background, or it's not on the headlines, or it's not on the like radio that you hear on the way home. Or so it definitely feels like it's a choice when I want to opt into the news and comment on it, rather than it being everything, the only thing that people can think about, which was definitely the case when I was back in New York and the ruling had just gone through. It was wild how much more that was just in the ether, whereas here, I'm not as exhausted by it.
So our time is quickly running out here. But in sort of closing, let's end on a more poetic, more happy note.
Yeah.
If you were able to meet up with Brooke, who just finished painting her door mural, her tribute to the Hershey bar, and allow her to take a small glimpse into your life today and the woman you become, and that's the really powerful, inspiring artist that you become. What do you think she would? How would she react to that?
I think she would think it would be really cool. I think she would be confused that we dropped all the science stuff, but I think to know that you can have a creative career, and that you can actually say stuff with it. I think that would be the most empowering thing in the world for little Brooke. Yeah.
From the wee girl who always thought of being a doctor as a backup plan. That's brave. To becoming one of the most inspiring artists that I've known of, and one of the funniest and most evil people in the role-playing world, and soon to be without a boyfriend. No, sorry.
Oh, like I know it's a bit, but I always do have genuine rage. So.
Sort of look in your eyes and go, "Oh, now we went too far."
Yeah.
Where was that? To being becoming one of the most evil people in the board game industry, at least on YouTube. Brooke Bourgeois is one of the nicest people I've met so far in the course of this podcast, and it's been one hell of a pleasure having you on. Thank you for joining me today.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome to chat.
Yeah.
You were listening to an episode of The Portrait, or Portrettpodden, as it is called in Norwegian. My name is Mats Lasse Jangås, and my guest at this time was Brooke Bourgeois. My thanks to Brooke for taking the time to talk to me. During the course of this conversation, you've heard audio clips from the No Rolls Barred YouTube channel, all rights reserved. All clips are used in an editorial context and falls under fair use. The Portrait works in accordance with the ethical code of practice of the Norwegian press. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll be back real soon.